As Murakin suspected, the ring turned out to be the Rune of Molt. Thousands of years ago, the Rune of Malta was an object created for Bement, the first emperor, who was a demon lover. It was created during the Great Wars. This is a masterpiece that blocks all attacks below the 7th rank. How did it end up in the hands of ordinary bandits? Murakin couldn't understand it. Jin looked at the ring. The Rune of Malta, an item that will be offered to the Emperor of Bement in 5 to 6 years. During this time, the Academy and the press were hysterical about the discovery, so Jin remembered the location and date of its discovery very well. Jin stared at Aluk, who had blood bubbling in his mouth. He wanted to ask one question before this bandit dies. Jin had heard that Aluk had something to do with the Rankandel family. Was it true? It was a question that bothered Jin. Murakin approached Jin. He said he should have asked about it earlier. What answer does he want to hear from someone on his deathbed? Aluk laughed strangely with the last of his strength. Now he knew. The boy who killed him must be Jean Rankandel. I see. So he still failed. Aluk said his last words. He said Jin wouldn't be able to stop this man. Those were his last words. Aluk was no longer breathing. Jin assumed that Aluk Spiderman was not his real name. It was necessary to figure it out. The 7th-ranked swordmaster is a gang boss who has a connection with the Rankandels. Murakin didn't find it strange. One of Jin's ancestors ran the bar, having the 9th rank. Yes, but Jin wanted to understand who Aluk was talking about. We need to make sure, because he was going to become the head. You can't stop this man. Of course, these were the words of a vile thug. His words definitely imply some connection with Rankandel, but they are not necessarily trustworthy. Aluk said he knew Jin. Then the fact that he failed probably has something to do with the sword illusion. And the reason why Aluk pointed out his age and inability to stop this unknown is that Aluk was aware of the power struggle. Luna Rankandel had left her family, so she should have been removed from the list of suspects. Definitely not Mew. Anna and the twins, they are too young and inexperienced. The rest are not so smart and diligent to get involved in these family intrigues. The culprit must be someone who is sensitive to rank, who pulled the strings when he found out about Jin's talent. Namely, the eldest heir, Joshua Rankandel. No one else has that kind of influence. It doesn't matter if Jin jumped to conclusions or not, but he'll find out soon enough. The news spread throughout Arkan that Tessing had been destroyed. Destroyed thanks to a joint investigation by Zippel and Bement. The evil gang was destroyed in one day. The residents of Arkan were happy with this news. Jean was reading the latest newspaper. It said that an informant of Tessing, Arkan's criminal organization, had surrendered to the authorities. Tessing's internal informant, who was involved in human trafficking, said he felt remorse for his crimes. Jin praised Jet for a job well done. As Jin had expected, Jet had a strong survival instinct. He listened to every word uttered by the investigators and answered with the best possible answers. He would have been harassed by the Zippel family or Bement, so this is a very small price to pay for his life. Murakin clicked his tongue. He was unhappy because he wanted Jet to suffer and experience more pain. Anyway, Zippels and Bement got all the laurels, but Jin was not left empty-handed either. Murakin grinned, hinting at the ring and other things. Right, Jin received the Multer Rune, magical grimoires, and a victory over a 7th-rank sword master. He was quite satisfied with his acquisitions. At this point, Jilly voiced her concerns. The rank of Aluk does not mean that he is similar to others. Jin shouldn't be too careless just because he defeated Aloha. He should be careful next time. Jin replied that he understood about it. If Gilly, who was also on the 7th rank, had been in Aluk's place, then perhaps Jin would not have survived that night. He will be careful and will not let victory turn his head. It was time to move on. Because of Jet's efforts, no one will even think of looking for them, so they could safely go to the next point. They will go to Tikkun, an independent city. Murakin didn't know about this place, but Jilly was aware of it. There was a large information house in Tikkun. Tikkun, an independent city. After the info offices of Rankandel, Zippel and Bement, this is the most reliable place. Murakin asked if Jin was going to find all the bad guys, as it was with Jet. Jin smiled. It certainly sounds good, but this is only one of the ways. Sailing on the ship, Jin thought about it. From now on, as he moves on, his memories from his past life are in priority, so you need to come up with a goal. However, this is not all. It is also necessary to study everything related to Vishkalai Viliano, Buber and Kanzella, plus Aluk's past and his affairs with the Rankandels, Colin ruins and forbidden magic. There was so much to check. The most suitable place for this is the 7 Flowers in Tikkun. Murakin said that he had found out what trace Chenmi had left. It was light magic. Jin was surprised to hear about light magic. It seemed to him that she had disappeared in ancient times. Murakin replied that it might be so. 15 centuries ago, about 500 famous magicians of the Zippel family plotted to kill Chenmi, but they all failed. That's probably why no one, including Jin, knew about Chenmi. Zippels erase from history everyone who gets on their nerves. This is a distinctive feature of the Zippel family. That's why there are no records of Chenmi. Rankandels cannot overcome the limits of their energy. Therefore, they will become the same in the near future. They will be forgotten, just like Chenmi. Therefore, learning to learn the Chenmi spell was incredibly important. Muraken was going to demonstrate Chenmi's spell. Jin moved a little closer to see everything better. Muraken said with a grin that Jin should watch and remember. Maybe that's what he needed the most right now. In Muraken's right hand, mana began to gather and solidify. Naturally, Jin stared intently at the mana sphere, waiting for a bright result. However, the ball of energy was drowned in black. Jin was somewhat surprised. Isn't it light magic, so why is it dark? The moment he thought, before the mana sphere dissipated and disappeared, a bright, white light appeared, like hot, red-hot steel. The moment the room lit up, Jin reflexively shuddered and groaned. The reason was the blinding light that filled the room. It was as if he was looking at the sun at the height of noon. The light seemed like a giant needle piercing his retina. Seeing Jin's condition, Muraken burst out laughing. Jin really wanted to give Muraken a nice uppercut for telling him to watch carefully, but the power of the spell gave him goosebumps. If he could use this spell at will during battle, fighting a stronger opponent wouldn't be a problem, including scenarios where he needed to escape. The spell was useful in both offense and defense. This spell is called Flash Bang. She was Chenmi's most valuable magic. Jin has indeed acquired something very valuable. Compared to Chenmi, Easter's grimoire was somewhat ambiguous. This is a coded system that even annoyed him, the great Muraken. He wasn't sure about the contents, but he was wondering if it would do any good. Jin told him to just leave it. One day he himself will bring the grimoire to a good decryptor. A week later, Tikkun, an independent city. A city on a small island in the south of the central continent, which is not related to either the Rankandel family or the Zippel family. Although the population is small, it is a popular place for tourists, as you can watch the ocean from anywhere in the city. Jilly was impressed by the beauty of the Tikkun. The streets looked as if they were alive. Tikkun contrasted sharply with Arkan. Unlike the amazing landscapes, Arkan was filled with people devoid of hope. On the other hand, in Tikkun, the ocean was always in sight no matter where they looked. Jilly suggested looking for a place where they could stay. Jin was all for it. He decided to explore the city center first. Muraken jumped out and suddenly returned to his normal human form. He expressed his dissatisfaction. He didn't want Jin to choose a crappy bedbug like in Arkan again. Jin didn't particularly like the sudden transformation. He told Muraken 1,000 times not to turn in front of everyone. Although Tikkun had a small population, but because of the size, the density is high. Being transformed in the middle of the road was an easy way to lose anonymity. Muraken replied that no one cared. And so it was. There didn't seem to be a single person nearby who would have noticed the transformation of the cat into a human. However, it only seemed that no one cared. A little girl's surprised exclamation sounded. She said that the cat had turned into a man. Startled, Jin, Muraken, and Gilly turned their heads towards the voice. She asked how the black cat turned into a black-haired uncle. The girl said that she, Julia, wanted to learn how to do the same. A little girl, holding a small stuffed dragon in her hands, looked at them with stars in her eyes. Jin began to convince the girl that she just imagined everything. How could a cat turn into a human? The girl corrected Jean, saying that she was Julia, not a girl, and she saw everything correctly. The black cat turned into an uncle. Why did Mr. lie to her? They bought ice cream for a girl with a stuffed dragon. Although watching her happily eat a cold treat was cute, Jin was somewhat discouraged. He said he wasn't Mr. and he wasn't lie. Calling a 15-year-old Mr. was cruel. The girl did not let up. She talked about him being Mr. and lying to her. Jin wanted the girl not to tell anyone anything. Since he bought her ice cream, could she pretend she didn't see anything? Julia turned out to be a tough nut to crack. She told him not to make her lie. Gilly and Muraken were puzzling over how to solve this situation. Jilly sighed. They thought Julia was lost, so they took her to the garrison. But if the rumors spread, wouldn't the Zippel family catch them? At that moment, Muraken said that no one would believe the girl, so there was no reason to worry. She turned around and looked at him with a cold gaze. If Muraken had listened to her young master, then nothing would have happened. Fortunately, only a little girl witnessed Muraken's transformation. Otherwise, there would be a lot of problems. So they came to the garrison. Julia said she didn't like the garrison. They were constantly bothering her mom and bothering her. Jilly said it wasn't good. Are they using cruel methods and exploiting people? Jin suggested that the girl's mother could be a criminal. He decided to go inside first and check. After thinking about it, they still agreed that the best way out was to take her to the guards. Julia pouted and then accepted her fate. The guard recognized Julia. He shouted for them to bring the leader. Their little Miss Julia was here. Jin asked the guard if he knew this girl. The guard laughed. Julia was the daughter of their leader. Julia pointed her finger somewhere, saying that her mommy is coming. A tall woman approached them. She looked at least 2 meters tall, with broad shoulders and a knife scar on her left eye. It wouldn't be surprising if she ran several shady organizations like Teasing, but she was wearing a military uniform. It was hard not to notice the flashy icon of the head. The woman hugged Julia before lifting her in her arms. The leader, Jin, didn't think that was the only thing this woman was doing. Mother and daughter hugged. It even looked cute. The woman was telling her daughter not to go so far away anymore. The girl objected, saying that her mom does not play with her. The woman apologized. They will play for a long time after she finishes her work. The three onlookers couldn't find the words. The woman introduced herself as Alika Badger. She was the head of the Tikkun garrison. They shook hands. Jean also introduced himself, but only changed his last name to Gray. He said that the three of them were passing through in Tikkun, so they were tourists. Alika wanted to thank them somehow, so she asked if they needed anything. Jin asked her to recommend them a place to stay. Alika bent down and put her ear to the girl, who then began to whisper something. Alika thought for a while, wrote something on a piece of paper, stamped it and handed it to Jin. It was a simple letter. She said that it was a letter of recommendation with the seal of the head of the garrison. Wherever Jin goes, if he shows this letter, he will be welcome everywhere. Alika thanked them once again for finding her daughter. Picking up the letter of recommendation, Jin replied that they should thank her. After that, they left, following their backs with her gaze. Alika asked her daughter if the cat had really turned into a human. Julia replied that it was, but the trio didn't want to talk about it, so she pretended she didn't know. Alika stroked her with a smile. She said it was a good job, because everyone had their own secrets. Alika thought about it. Transformation is something that only dragons can do. The strength of the recommendation letter from the chief of the Tikkun garrison exceeded their expectations. Jin chose the most luxurious hotel on the outskirts of the city. On top of that, they were offered the most luxurious room. Jin, Murakan and Gilly were finally able to rest. Gilly was pleased. The service in this place was excellent. She only received such service when she was in Hufester. Murakan agreed with her. According to him, the bed was soft, like the filling of a strawberry pie. That's how the bed should be. He was impressed by the power of the letter of recommendation. Gilly said things were going well in Tikkun. Who would have thought that such luck would befall them immediately upon arrival? She asked if she could have the ice cream Julia was eating, too. This ice cream was popular in Tikkun. Jin told her not to ask about it anymore. She can order anything. Their visit was like a vacation trip. The three of them had been together since their time at Tempest Castle, but this was the first time they had encountered such hospitality. Gilly seemed especially happy because she was constantly humming a tune. Seeing how pleased she was, Jin was pleased. As soon as Gilly left the room, Murakan called Jin over. The dragon asked how Jin planned to get into the 7 colors. It won't be easy. Jin replied that he wanted to find one person first. 7 colors is the best information house in Tikkun. In its center is someone called the Noble Kashmir Sword, the famous swordsman that everyone knows. He was recommended for the role of a teacher of the initial skill of the Rankandel sword. Many young swordsmen from Rankandel begged him to train them, but he always refused. This is the only information known to the house. But 10 years later, he will reveal that he is actually a member of the imperial family of Bement, who uses the information gathered by the 7 flowers. With the exception of the intelligence departments of the Rankandels, Zippels, and the imperial family of Bement, 7 colors was the next best source of information. It was the most useful source before coming to power. The agency was an incredible group of information brokers, but no one knew that its leader was a member of the imperial family of Bement. He will receive sovereign power from Bement, the Zippel and Rankandel families, after which he will gain support as the first king of the independent city of Tikkun. A meticulous man who is not just skilled in fencing, but also has enough skill to hide for so long. Jin thought about it. Kashmir could support him. The problem was that it was necessary to get closer to him somehow. Shortly after leaving, Gilly returned to her apartment. However, her scared face didn't look like she ordered ice cream. She reported that something was wrong. There was no one in the loggia. All the staff and guests have disappeared. At this moment, dozens of footsteps could be heard approaching them from the corridor. It was definitely the sound of soldiers marching in steel boots. The stomping stopped at their door. Then, a quieter pair of steps approached him. A man came through the open door and put his hand on Gilly's shoulder. He asked if everything was fine here. Murakan didn't know anything about the man's identity, but their visitor was a famous swordsman that Jin and Gilly knew. It was a noble Kashmir sword. Meeting him was their main purpose of coming to Tikkun. They struggled to find a way to meet him, but to think that he would come right to their doorstep. A rather unexpected turn of events. Seeing the hand on Gilly's shoulder, Murakan was furious. He rushed forward and hugged Gilly. Jin quickly shouted to Murakan not to kill him. A fanged monster from the shadows appeared in front of the swordsman's face. Kashmir shuddered with fear. Jin was confused. Kashmir shouldn't be here. He shouldn't have found out about his affairs in Arkan. And they didn't cause any trouble, because they just arrived in Tikkun. More importantly, Kashmir wasn't alone. There were many soldiers outside the room. They were clearly brought in for a possible battle with the dragon. They would have entered the room if they just wanted to scare them. At this rate, there won't be a wet spot left of the Trinity. Jin told Murakin to calm down, because the space here was too small. If he fights here, Gilly might get hurt. Murakin had to calm down. He didn't want Gilly to get hurt in any way. Murakin asked Kashmir if he knew him. He was displeased with the swordsman's disrespectful tone. Did he really look down on everyone because he had a sword on his belt and sixers trailing behind him? Jin breathed a sigh of relief. Murakin restrained himself this time. Kashmir did not greet them, or rather Murakin, respectfully. Murakin continued to pour out curses and curses, because of which Kashmir was amazed. It was a well-known fact that dragons had incredible pride. Kashmir should have known this, but he still casually greeted Murakin. The presentation of Kashmir was ruined. He seemed very shocked. At that moment, he was sure that Murakin was a dragon. Otherwise, he wouldn't have frozen in place like a scarecrow after a cruel humiliation. Jin gently stopped Murakin. Then the dragon stopped, not taking his eyes off Kashmir. He would have torn his jaw apart several times if he hadn't been stopped. Murakin was angry for several reasons. The biggest one was that he made Strawberry Pie feel threatened. And then he came, disturbing their peace and showing disrespect. Jin told Kashmir to relax and put the sword away, if he certainly came without malicious intent. Jin said that he had heard a lot about Kashmir. Therefore, it can be said that he was well acquainted with him. Jin's demeanor was much calmer than Murakin's. Kashmir cleared his mind and avoided Murakin's gaze. How did the person in front of him know his name? He asked directly who Jin was. Without hesitation, Jin gave his real name. Jilly, who was standing next to him, was shocked by this. Murakin was also slightly surprised. Disclosure of his identity should be avoided at all costs. Of course, I was most surprised. Jin said that they had something to talk about. To do this, they need to move to a more suitable place. He will answer all his questions. Soon there were only 4 left in the task. Kashmir dismissed his soldiers. Jin thanked him for his trust and decision to communicate privately. Kashmir began to analyze the situation. He brought the soldiers after the report of the dragon's appearance. But it was a mistake that angered the dragon even more. Kashmir was sure that the ferocious man in front of him was the dragon. Such a feeling of incredible pressure could not have been created by man. If Jin hadn't stopped him, they would all have ended up in the next world. Analyzing the group in front of him, Kashmir naturally shifted his gaze to Jilly. The woman was Jilly McLaurin. He met her before he was kicked out of Bement's palace. Kashmir still remembered what outstanding skills she had demonstrated back then in the training hall. But, for some reason, he didn't feel her aura. He looked at the nail. Perhaps it was the reason for this. The boy in front of him was Rankandel. It's not like he's lying to him. However, he couldn't understand why Jin was accompanied by a dragon. So he directly asked Jin why he was with the dragon. Since ancient times, dragons have only dealt with magicians who have contracts with a god or with someone who has a special power. For example, not with Rankandels, but with Zippels. Kashmir also asked Jin if the Rankandel family knew about this. Jin simply replied that the family didn't know. Kashmir grinned awkwardly. If this is discovered, chaos will begin in the Rankandel family. But Jin shared a secret that could easily cost him his life. But something else was important. Jin asked why Kashmir came to the dragon. Once Jin revealed his secret to him, then he decided to tell him about his secret. It had to do with his daughter Julia. The reason Kashmir is here is because she told about a cat that turned into a man. Jin asked why he believed the child's words so easily. Kashmir added to his words that his daughter is not just a child, but a contractor as Mila. Jin was surprised by this. It was about the god of the eye himself. Jin finally understood why Kashmir and Alika trusted Julia's absurd story. Anyone who has made a contract with the god of sight will never be deceived by the eyes. There is no lie for them. Revealing such a truth required great courage. The contractor as Mueller received not only an absolute eye that allows him to see the truth, but also an all-seeing eye that allows him to see the future. All the rulers and leaders of the world were looking for the one who signed the contract with Asmil, with the hope and greed to avoid the uncertainty of the future. That's why most of Asmil's contractors were abused and used to their advantage, living the rest of their lives in poverty, especially considering the extreme actions of the Zippels and the imperial family of Bement. Everyone knew that they wanted to keep the contractors close to them at all costs. Jin asked if Kashmir was afraid to let them in on it. At that moment, Murakin intervened. Something was wrong. If Julia is a contractor, then where is her dragon? Murakin didn't feel his energy anywhere near her. The Asmila dragon was known for his excessive concern for the contractor, but he left the child alone. It was very strange. Combining the dragon's words with the image of Julia holding a dragon doll, Jin finally understood why Kashmir had come to them. For some reason, the dragon disappeared. That's why Kashmir came here urgently after learning about the presence of another dragon. Kashmir's face darkened. He told me that Julia's guardian dragon suddenly disappeared a year ago. He suggested that the Zippel family or the Bement Empire had a hand in this. Murakin couldn't believe it. It didn't make any sense. No dragon has ever been born that would be stupid enough to be kidnapped. And at the same time during the year, Murekin paused and asked Kashmir if her daughter was 5 years old. Kashmir replied that it was. After a while, Murekin continued. If Julia is actually an Asmil contractor, it means that without a dragon she will soon go crazy and become disabled. Kashmir's eyes filled with hopelessness. Anyone would be shocked to learn that their daughter would be bedridden for life. Asmil's contractors are able to see the future. People don't know, but this vision causes great damage even to the dragon's psyche. Now the girl was too young to distinguish a dream from reality, so nothing special has happened yet. If she continues to see the future without protection, as it is happening now, in a year or two her eyes will become uncontrollable. Jin asked Murekin to tell him in more detail. How will the vision of the future make Julia disabled? It was about causality. Those who know the future must follow what they have seen. If he doesn't, Asmil's punishment will begin. When a vision of someone's death appears, nothing can be changed. Contractors who violate this rule will eventually be destroyed. Even if they want to change their actions after seeing the future, Asmil's contractors must follow their fate. Thus, even if they see in the future that their brother is going to be killed, they should not tell him about it or stop the murder. From the very beginning, Kashmir's daughter lived in a world different from theirs. Judging by the expression of Kashmir, Murekin hit the bull's eye. He needs to find a guardian dragon as soon as possible and bring it to the child. There was not much way out. Kashmir's chest felt heavy. He felt his stomach clench at the thought of the terrible fate of a small, innocent child. Kashmir fell to his knees and lowered his head. He called Murekin a great dragon and said that he runs the 7 Colors Information Center. Kashmir was confident in his abilities, but for a whole year he could not find the guardian dragon. Kashmir was usually a very collected person. Although he was kicked out of the Bement imperial family, his sense of pride and self-esteem were very high. However, this was a situation where the daughter's life was at stake. Although they were not supported by any evidence, Kashmir did not doubt a single word spoken by the dragon. After all, he was in the presence of a dragon and a pure-blooded Rankandel. They wouldn't lie because it would tarnish their names. Murekin did not reject and did not agree. He said that the meeting with Julia upon arrival in Tikkun was not just a coincidence. Asmil asked for their help for his young contractor. Kashmir began to beg Murekin to help. The dragon stopped him with his hand, saying that he couldn't do anything even if he begged like that. To do this, you need to ask their leader. He pointed a finger at Jin. Jin told Kashmir to get on his feet. Although they are not close enough, but the question concerned the child's life. First, Kashmir should not lose hope. They better need to focus on finding Julia's keeper together. The man's eyes almost filled with tears. Jin could feel his anxiety and frustration. Kashmir lowered his head and said he would never forget Jin's kindness. It turned out better than Jin had planned. They could collaborate with Kashmir in 7 colors. But this was not a happy turn of events. No one will find joy in a quest that has a little girl's life at stake. If even the 7 flowers couldn't find the location of the guardian dragon, then they need information from the Rankandel or Zippel family. Since he had a mission as a temporary flag bearer, he could not ask for help from his family. In his current situation, he wanted to break some rules, but these actions would not help him in any way. At that moment, Murekin asked one question. Was Tikkun with the Zippel family? Jin replied that Tikkun was just a city. He wasn't attached to anyone. Tikkun was similar to Mammoth. However, one key difference between Tikkun and Mammoth was that the former had vast lands. The Zippels and Bement, some other kingdoms, as well as the Rankandels, of course, wanted to get the land of Tikkun. Murekin turned to Kashmir. If the 7 colors are so capable, then they must have information about the dragons. He needed this information. Kashmir replied that they knew which dragon was on which continent. Murekin told him to give him all the information about the dragons of the Bement Empire. He was going to fly to the Bement Empire and question the other dragons. Most of the Zippel dragons were his enemies, so he couldn't ask them. Almost 80% of the existing dragons were related to the Zippel family. Most of the rest were with the imperial family of Bement. And the rest, a very small part, were associated with smaller families or unknown contractors. Jin couldn't seem to believe it. Murekin chuckled. He said that this method is something like a last chance. There was nothing the dragons didn't know about. A small wooden house. A beautiful woman with silver hair was sitting inside. It was the silver dragon Quikantel. At that moment, a joyful girl ran up to her. She was waving a newspaper. Her name was Ania. She talked about how Jin was amazing. They were the same age, but Jin was already rank 5. Quikantel said that Ania is a good contractor, so she can also stat like Jin Rankandel. The girl was somewhat incredulous. Quinkandel said that unlike the child from the family, the guardian of which is a black-haired guy, Ania is a contractor of Ulta, the god of time. Before she could say even a few words, she felt a long-forgotten energy. She froze for a moment with her eyes wide open. Quikantel told Ania to lock herself at home and not come out until she returned. Ania asked if something serious had happened. The woman replied that it was nothing special. Just one blob came. She seemed angry. Silver dragon scales and claws appeared on her fingers. They flew for at least 2 days to a remote ocean territory near the Empire of Bement. When they approached the boundless ocean at a high altitude, Muraken slowly began to descend. They arrived early in the morning. There were no boats in the moonlit waters. Muraken was about to release his energy. Then Bement's dragons will come out on their own. He told Jin to hide well so he wouldn't get caught. Muraken began to radiate his energy, but Jin felt nothing. The special energy that only dragons could emit and identify was akin to dolphin echolocation. It was a signal that people couldn't detect. However, looking down at the ocean directly below Muraken, a ripple of waves formed. Jin remembered how Kashmir had passed on the list of active dragons in the territory of the Bement Empire. Muraken read the list thoughtfully. When he saw Quickhandle's name on the list, he couldn't help but swear. Jin asked if there was any problem. Muraken told him to give up on it. It was a dangerous idea, but there was something between the dragons, so maybe everything will work out. It was obvious that Muraken did not want to go into details. He told Jin that they had a long way to go. At that moment, Muraken was hailed by Kashmir. He called Muraken the Great Dragon. Muraken was embarrassed by this treatment, so he yelled at Kashmir. He just wanted to be called by his first name. Did he look like a sect leader? Kashmir bowed deeply. He will leave the salvation of his daughter to them. Before leaving, Muraken decided to say 2 things. Firstly, until her dragon returns, Kashmir should make her daughter tired every day. If she gets tired, Asmil's strength will weaken. He has to play with her when she wakes up. Kashmir should do everything possible to make the girl fall off her feet. Kashmir replied that he understood everything. He will play with her around the clock. Then what is the second thing? Ice cream. Muraken said to bring 1 ice cream, since someone couldn't eat it because of him. Jilly was surprised. She said Muraken was so kind. The dragon giggled contentedly. He remembered what she said about the local dessert. Jilly said that wasn't what she was talking about. Muraken managed to calm Sir Kashmir down so quickly. Because of her words, Muraken exclaimed that he didn't care about the feelings of some micro. Jin smiled, remembering that. Muraken pretended that he didn't care about strangers, but in fact he was very attentive, such as his black dragon. Muraken seemed to notice someone. From afar, 2 flying figures approached them. It was 2 earth dragons. They were Labis and Intel. Muraken said that he beat them most often. He also told Jin to put on a helmet. Jin used the Molt rune to cover his face. They moved so fast that tiny dots in the distance turned into huge dragon figures in a second. Not fast, but so hurriedly, as if they were late for class. Jin asked how much Muraken had beaten them so badly that they came only after feeling his energy. Muraken seemed proud of himself. He said that he used to beat up all the bastards who complained about his territory. The earth dragons asked what Muraken was doing here. When they got closer, Muraken reported in a high and mighty voice that he had woken up from a dream, so he needed help. The 2 dragons looked at each other awkwardly and slowed down the flapping of their wings. Should they tell him? It looks like Muraken didn't know anything. They said they didn't know what his request was, but now wasn't the best time. They told him to leave as soon as possible. They have young contractors in this area. Therefore, they did not want to create problems in the seas of Bement. Muraken grinned. How dare they order him to retreat? There is no place under this sky where he, Muraken, could hide. They shouted at him to just run away. The energy he just spread is causing chaos. Muraken didn't seem to understand what he was talking about. The earth dragons reported that Quickhandle was hanging around here somewhere to kill him. Hearing her name, Muraken froze. Jin asked what kind of relationship Muraken had with the guardian dragon of the time god Ult. Muraken awkwardly revealed that she was his ex. The dragons begged Muraken to just hide. Their contractors were still very young. If they get caught up in this, they may die. The other dragons didn't know he was awake. If he doesn't leave now, there will be rumors. While Jin was watching, he found the situation very interesting and also realized that Muraken was a great dragon in the past. However, if the other dragons were begging like now, perhaps fleeing the area was a good idea. At that moment, the 3 dragons sensed someone. Muraken told Jin to hold on tight, and from afar, causing a powerful wave of energy, a figure flew straight at them. It was Quickhandle's breath. 2 dragons started running away from this place. Several more beams of energy flew to them. Muraken danced across the sky, dodging projectiles. Jin checked the direction of the attacker while holding onto Muraken. He saw a woman who was releasing energy rays from her hands. Jin realized that this was an ultimate skill of the 8th rank or higher. How many are there? Quickhandle screamed that Muraken was a bastard that even the grave would not fix. How dare he shamelessly show himself here? She was clearly furious. Jin asked if they would fight this monster now. Yes, the dragon replied that they would fight. Jin sighed and asked how long their relationship with Quickhandle lasted. Their relationship lasted 500 years. Well, in human years, about 5 years. But it didn't matter. Muraken asked Jin to chop her Bradamante if the opportunity arose. Jin asked if she was going too far if it was over between them. As if Jin didn't know. Murakin does not communicate with those who are below him in class. Therefore, when the situation gets bad, he gathers his forces and wreaks havoc in one fell swoop. You need to do one thing to strike. Quickhandle turned into a dragon and declared that it was too late to escape. She will kill Murakin in the sea. The brilliant silver dragon that merged with the night sky finally revealed itself by flying through the clouds. Quickhandle, the one who guarded the time horizon, quickly closing the distance, Quickhandle opened her mouth and clung to Murakin's neck. Fortunately, she only touched his scales, but when their bodies intertwined, Murakin felt that he was weaker. Unlike Murakin, who had lost his strength after the battle with Temur, she was still in her prime. Quickhandle's movements screamed about her intention to kill Murakin. The sighs she made were full of murderous intent. The battle seemed one-sided. Murakin was constantly getting injured. But the black dragon didn't think of playing defense all the time. The sky was covered with dark clouds. The black clouds were the energy of Murakin's shadows in its materialized form. He flew straight into the clouds and hid in them. Murakin breathed a sigh of relief. He bought some time. It was a good thing Jin had followed him. Otherwise he would have died if the silver dragon had hit him. That was Jin's opinion. Murakin replied that he would not die. No matter how strong Quickhandle is, she won't be able to get in here. What should I do now? Since talking didn't help, Murakin decided to find a way to calm her down. But Murakin was wrong. Quickhandle tore the cocoon of shadow energy with her claws. Quickhandle chuckled. Did Murakin really think that he could be used by releasing the energy of shadows against her? Murakin seemed unable to believe his eyes. Quickhandle was so angry, seeing Murakin's sincere misunderstanding. This bastard has no idea how weak he has become. He is very mistaken if he thinks that he is the same as before. Murakin started asking Quickhandle to stop. He wanted to leave everything as it is in memory of the old days. He said that he only came because he wanted to ask for something. In memory of old times. These words angered Quickhandle even more. Thinking about the past, she realized that tearing him to pieces would not be enough. Murakin bit Quickhandle on the wing. The sounds of something breaking and clicking resounded everywhere. Due to the fact that they were enveloped in the energy of shadows, none of the dragons fell, although they stopped flapping their wings. Murakin asked her to calm down. Why did she go so far when they just broke up? Just broke up. That's exactly what she was beating him up for. She hit him hard with her dragon paw. Murakin gave a signal to Jin. Surprisingly, Quickhandle did not find a man on Murakin's back. She only noticed at that moment. Grabbing his sword, Jin darted from Murakin's back like an arrow aimed at the silver dragon's wing. The outer shell, which even Murakana is hard to bite through. It will be difficult for Jin to make a hole in it. However, with a vulnerable spot in what's left of Murakin's shadow energy, Bradamante was glowing with an aura. In the dark environment, a radiant aura illuminated everything around. A decisive blow with all his might. The sword slid into the cracks and pierced the flesh, but Jin wasn't finished yet. The release of shadow energy. Murakin told him not to use this skill until he reached the release of the 5th rank shadow energy. However, now was not the time to hold back. If this attack did not cause critical damage, then there was only one way out, to break the Orgala pendant and summon the moon. Jin didn't plan on doing that, so he at least tried to use all his cards. And above all, he had no shortage of shadow energy. Jin absorbed some of the released energy of Murakin's shadows. The release began, and just like the time he killed a member of the White Wolf tribe, time seemed to stop. The energy around him began to swirl. More and more crackling energy penetrated into Quickhandle's wound, and the tears spread across her left wing. She let out a painful cry and tried to get rid of him, but it was too late to stop Bradamante. In fact, she relaxed her vigilance. Blinded by anger, she did not notice the man on Murakin's back, and this was the result of ignoring the offer to talk peacefully. The shadow energy has completed its journey through the Quickhandle wing. Jin leaned his whole body on the hilt of the sword. There was a shrill scratching sound, and the energy of the shadows began to glow. Jin slid down the wing of the Quickhandle and, on the move, passed a sword through it, tearing the dragon's wing apart. The deeper he plunged his sword, the further the energy of the shadows went. Since he was expending energy tens of times his limit, the rate of energy consumption was inefficient. Even a knight of the 7th rank could not break through the wing of the Quickhandle, so there was nothing else to do but pour all his energy into one attack. The attack was over, and Murakin caught Jin as he was falling. Cold sweat covered the boy's body from spending so much effort. However, when he saw the massive wing falling into the ocean, he felt confident in his amazing feat. A second later, the Quickhandle plummeted. The ocean swallowed her whole, a huge splash, symbolizing her death. Jin also had to deal with shivering, which was a consequence of going beyond his limits. Well, did he become a dragon slayer? Murakin said that now they should hope that Quickhandle has calmed down a little. Jin was shocked. What was Murakin talking about? The dragon replied that an ordinary dragon would have died from such a thing, but not Quickhandle. She's completely different. The time ruler will not perish so easily. Looking at the ocean, Jin swallowed. Jin summed up that they might end up missing even before they find the missing dragon. Rewind. Quickhandle's wing and body flew up into the sky again. She was rewinding time. In fact, she wasn't defenseless during this process. The space around her was warped, and a swing of the sword through it would hardly touch anything. Goosebumps ran all over Jin's body when he saw the picture in front of him. Murakin calmed him down. Although it looks like a scam, but it consumed a lot of energy. He told Jin not to move an inch just in case. Quickhandle has transformed into her human form. Luckily for Jin and Murakin, she didn't attack them right away. Murakin said that he did not know that she had feelings to such an extent that she flew into a rage. Didn't they part on a good note? A good note. Murakin suddenly abandoned her without any explanation. Does he call this a good note? Murakin snapped back. She was angry herself when he started talking about breaking up. Frankly, he didn't cheat on her, they just didn't get along. The two dragons began to swear at each other. It was a conversation between two dragons who had lived for thousands of years. Jin had to be silent for a while. The dragons tried to figure it out, but they just repeated the same words over and over again. Their conversation never developed. Murakin is tired of this conversation. Therefore, he declared that he had not come to fight. He needed to ask one question. She first glanced at Jin and asked if he was the soldier's contactor. Murakin replied that it was not so important. One of them was in great danger at the moment. One of them, Quickhandle chuckled. He was disgusting to her. Murakin personally killed so many dragons. What can we talk about here? When Murakin heard these last words, his expression froze. It was a painful topic. Murakin told her that her brother's enemy was among them. It was a dragon he didn't know anything about. He only killed him because she hated him. Murakin took a deep breath and continued. Whatever it was, he was mistaken in deciding to turn to her. I should have asked the others. Quickhandle stopped Murakin leaving. She said that she always gets emotional when she sees him. Quickhandle apologized for what she said and told him to ask his question. Murakin reported that recently one of the guardian dragons of Asmil disappeared. Gone? Did Murakin mean Tikkun Latri? Now they have come to the main topic. Quickhandle asked if it was weird. The dragon was recently taken by Villetta. They finally found out the culprit behind Julia's dragon's disappearance. The Villetta Wind Dragon, one of the dependencies of Melzir, the Wind God, and the guardian dragon of the vice head of the Zippel family, Andre. Is the Zippel family involved? Quickhandle was sure, because they said they would teach Ladder the language of dragon magic. She offered to change the place of conversation. If they go back a little, they can avoid the traps and get into the basement. She told them to follow her. A forest on the outskirts of the capital of Bement. A trio of a man and two dragons sat at the same table. Jean introduced himself as Quickhandle. She said she knew who he was. He's a descendant of Temur, right? And he must also be the youngest son of the Rankandel family, Jean Rankandel. Murakin was discouraged. He immediately asked about how she found out about it. How could she not understand when Jin emits the same energy as Temur? They often hung out thousands of years ago, and she just assumed the age. The guardian dragon's reaction was quite sharp. Returning to the main topic, Villetta took Ladder a year ago, just when Kashmir said the dragon was missing. So she said that Villetta persuaded Ladder with tales that he would be taught the language of dragon magic. According to Murakin, it didn't sound very good. Quickhandle objected. It could very well be true. Merkin said that the current contractor Asmilla is too small to control her forces. She asked if it wasn't dangerous to have no guardian dragon. Murakin nodded. Villetta should definitely know about this. Quickhandle started tapping on the table. As expected, they definitely had an ulterior motive. For her, the life of a contract worker Asmil was not important. After all, she was supposed to be protecting Ania, not another god's contractor. However, she had just remembered that Villetta had shown some interest in Ania. She told them that when Villetta picked up Ladder, he was staying in Bement. Villetta said he wanted to introduce Ladder to her, but continued to fixate on her contractor and asked her to meet him just once for no reason. She didn't let that happen. Quickhandle sighed. She had no choice, since the identity of her contractor had already been revealed. Since there are a lot of people in the upper class of Bement who are on close terms with Zippel, it is likely that information about her handler was passed to Andre Zippel. If she had acted on the basis of her character, she would not have allowed her contractor to stay here. Contractor Quickhandle was one of the students of the Bement Academy of Magic. If Quickhandle fights Villetta for some reason, the Zippel people from the academy will do some undesirable things towards Anya. Jin intervened in their conversation. Quickhandle said that the identity of her contractor was revealed, but no one recognized Asmil's contractor, right? It's suspicious how they found out and turned to Latra. Jean deliberately didn't mention Julia's name. He didn't trust Quickhandle with such classified information. Murakin agreed with this. It was really weird. Was the magic of detecting contractors created while he was sleeping? Quickhandle replied that it was impossible. No one is able to find out about the contract until the contractor proves himself. Even if this magic exists, what good will it do them? While sipping tea, Jin explained that the Zippels would benefit from this in 2 ways. First, they have a way to minimize the dangers and eliminate contractors outside their territory. And secondly, if they kill the contractor, the Zippel family will have the opportunity to make a contract with God. In fact, this is not just a chance to sign a contract. Jin was sure that Zippel had a certain method. In his past life, the god of time, contractor Oltaha, officially appeared 10 years later. The contractor was a purebred Zippel. Jin didn't hesitate for a second. The Zippels could definitely make contracts if they killed the former carrier. That's why Julia's guardian dragon was stolen. Considering that he had not heard anything about Princess Takana in his previous life, it is easy to come to this conclusion. Quickhandle barely understood the child's words. Considering that the Zippels were a family that was already on top of the world, she didn't think they needed to take decisive action on such trifles, so they had a lot of contractors. In her opinion, the soldier's contractor behaved ridiculously suspiciously. Jin interrupted her. He said she was telling lies that she didn't even believe herself. Jin wasn't sure how the dragons were doing, but there was no limit to human greed. Even when they reach the top, they will not get satisfaction, but will desire things more than that. Zippels are also people who have ruled for thousands of years. Whatever they do, there's nothing strange about it. He was sure that the heads were up to something. Jin didn't fully understand why Quickhandle pretended she didn't know anything. Was she afraid of the Zippel family? Quickhandle couldn't even answer and was silent for a second. Murakin stood up and began to support Jin's words. He was worried that Quickhandle would attack Jin because of his words. He said there was nothing wrong with being careful. He could also confirm that greed was in the Zippel's blood. Quickhandle smiled and then laughed out loud. She said Murakin had changed. Well, she would help them, but first she would hide her contractor. Even Murakin did not expect that everything would turn out so easily. He expected that he would have to persuade her for a long time or leave with nothing. Quickhandle said she needed to see Valletta herself and find out the truth. If Jin and Murakin weren't lying to her, the Zippels must be looking for opportunities right now. She will only call from, and they will immediately arrive. Quickhandle put her hand on Jin's shoulder. On top of that, she had an obligation to Temur, one of his descendants here, awakened memories of the old days in her. His provocation, as well as his audacity, reminded her of Temur. She recalled with a smile the affairs of the distant past. When Quickhandle reported their plans, the door opened wide and a cheerful girl with glasses appeared. She was surprised to see strangers. Quickhandle introduced them. She introduced Murakin as an old friend, and Jin as his contractor. Ania's eyes widened and she ran up to Jin. Her face turned red. Quickhandle slapped her forehead, and Jin could only smile awkwardly. Ania said she dreamed of seeing Jin. Now he was standing right in front of her. She started begging him to give her an autograph. Ania looked like the most devoted fan. Quickhandle asked if Ania wanted to keep her dignity as a contractor. Ania apologized and bowed, but continued to look at Jin with stars in her eyes. She said that she had completely lost her head from meeting Master Jin. Ania introduced herself. She was from the common people, but attended the academy as a scholarship student. A commoner. It seemed to Jin that Ulta valued the pedigrees of his contractors. Does that mean she was too talented? Jin told her not to apologize. There is no need to be ashamed of the enthusiastic reception. At that moment, Quickhandle stopped her. Didn't she tell her not to leave the house without her permission? Ania replied that it was sad there, so she thought she would feel better if she saw Quickhandle. But suddenly, young Master Jin appeared in front of her. She definitely made the right choice by coming here today. Quickhandle squeezed her hand when she thought of the animals bullying Ania. If they had physically touched her, she would have killed them all. But all they did was treat Ania as if she didn't exist. Jin looked at Quickhandle. He knew how the academic nobility behaved in the presence of a commoner. Jin could imagine Ania being bullied. That's why he hasn't interacted with those bastards from the academy since his last life. Ania asked why her deeply adored young Master Jin was here. Jin approached her and told her that she was the reason he had arrived. There was a possibility that someone was hunting her because she was an Ulta contractor, so he asked if she would go with him. He promised to protect her. He told the truth straight out. It didn't take him long to realize that his wording might be misunderstood. As soon as she heard what Jin said, Ania felt like the main character of a novel. His words caused another chaos. Ania began to beat the air with her fists like a hallucination patient, and her eyes became bloodshot. She said that Ulta had finally heard her prayers. It was so loud that Murakin almost went deaf. Ania kept insanely repeating that she would go with Jin. She thanked Ulta for being able to meet Jin. Jin had never seen such a situation in his entire life. Even the great and all-powerful Veridin Zippel would not have received so much admiration from one fan. It was like a follower meeting his god. Tired of this sight, Quickhandle lightly hit Ania on the back of the head. The girl's body trembled and then fell to the ground as she lost consciousness. Jin grinned at the funny sight. Quickhandle sighed. She was afraid that Ania wouldn't want to go. Obviously, she was worried for nothing. She would follow Jin even to the underground prison of the Rankandels. What prison? Jin said his family doesn't have anything like that. Quickhandle told him not to pretend, because there was a dragon there too. When Jin wanted to ask what she was talking about, they were interrupted by Muraken's snoring. Muraken suddenly fell asleep, snoring loudly. The woman turned to Jin. She helped him because of her loyalty to Temer, as well as for Enia's safety. But the main reason is this sleeping bastard. Jin had nothing to say. He could only imagine how deep her feelings for Muraken were. But the words that followed were completely different. She continued that it was the sleeping bastard who didn't realize how weak he had become. She won't tell him that, but he won't be able to stand up to Villetta. So if they have to fight him, she will fight. Jin asked if Villetta was that strong. Yes, but it was also the fact that Muraken was incredibly weakened. Her attack at sea would have been a joke to him 1,000 years ago. Right now, Jin and Muraken needed a place to wait for Villetta's arrival. Quickhandle offered to stay with her, but Jin will have to convince the stubborn Muraken. She was sure he would make a fuss because it was her ex's house. Silver Dragon Quickhandle. Contrary to Jin's first impression of her, she turned out to be quite thoughtful. He told her to leave it to him. Quickhandle reported that Enia would wake up in 10 seconds. She asked Jin to choose his words carefully when he explained the whole situation to her. Jin was surprised. Didn't she just hit her? Even trained martial artists don't wake up so quickly. In less than 10 seconds, Enia began to come to her senses. Goosebumps ran through Jin's body. Modern physiology and medicine could not explain the phenomenon before him. It was the will of a fan. Soon Jin began to explain. Jean started with Julia and her predicament, right down to the assumptions about Willette and the Zipples. He couldn't say anything about his past life, but fortunately, Enia easily absorbed all the contents. She trusted Jin's words completely. Intrigues and adventures related to a child, a girl, dragons, and a young Master Jin. It was very romantic. Jin replied that she could look at it that way. Enia said it's better to think positively. Well, she should get ready to leave the Bement Empire with her family and go to Tikkun. She asked when they would leave. Jin replied that the sooner the better. Enia was ready to leave tomorrow. Her whole family is a 7-year-old younger brother and an old dog, Poppy. Quickhandle told her to go and start preparing for departure. Enia couldn't wait for this. After saying goodbye to Jin, she ran to get ready. Officially leaving the academy was a bad idea. The imperial family of Bement will not let the contractor Ulta go so easily. And the moment they notice her intention to leave, they will chain her at any cost, whether it's taking her family hostage or using drugs to prevent her from leaving. The Special Affairs Department of the Bement Empire will be tasked with keeping an eye on them. Until that happened, secret departure was the best choice. There will be a search and a chase, but it will start in the Magic Federation of Lutero, not in Tikkun. Although this does not mean that there is no danger. Jin and Quickhandle decided to leave without saying anything. Ending the conversation, Jin and Quickhandle looked at the front door at the same time. They could hear pairs of footsteps that were getting louder from the courtyard. One of the owners of the steps knocked on the door. The voice was asking if there was someone like that. He needed firewood. It can't be that someone has traveled all the way to their remote place for firewood. It was the Special Affairs Department of the Bement Empire or the Imperial Guard that came to check on them. Firewood. Quickhandle only thought that this person was strange because there were many trees outside. Surprisingly, Quickhandle didn't even doubt the intruders. Jin stopped her. Did she really assume that the person outside had come for firewood? Quickhandle was definitely very strong, but because of her strength, she didn't even have an ounce of caution. Jin thought for a moment. Are all dragons so careless? He said that the person outside was most likely from the Special Affairs Department of the Bement Empire. Jin activated the Rune of Molt and hid his face with a helmet. Jin assumed it was an Yu. From now on, they will most likely keep an eye on this place. They probably want to confirm the presence of outsiders that Quickhandle brought with her. Follow her. How dare they? Quickhandle was furious. Quickhandle ran to the door. Quickhandle opened the door and was greeted by a large man. He wore a huge shirt and a straw hat, and his body was well built. She grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Quickhandle was telling him to tell the truth. Was he from the Special Affairs Department of the Bement Empire? Although the man was choking, he didn't say anything. Another man's voice rang out, and surprisingly, it came from the house. He said he sent him. The man asked her to loosen her grip. If she kills him, another officer from the Special Affairs Department will come. The attacker was wearing a red mask and a tight blue suit, the uniform of members of the Special Affairs Department. Jin knew that only important leaders wore red face masks. Quickhandle let go of the man and rushed at his commander. If she needs to kill someone, it's better to start with him. Quickhandle struck. The man didn't even flinch or dodge. He received a blow, but remained motionless like a statue, as well as unharmed. The man didn't seem to show any fear in the presence of Quickhandle's rage. He asked if she had let off steam. To think that he's fine after taking a direct hit from a dragon, albeit in human form. Jin realized that this was definitely not an ordinary officer from the Special Affairs Department of Bimen. He had a red mask that only the department group leader can wear, plus he wields a curved sword. Only one person fit all these characteristics. The Emperor's right hand, the leader of the third group. The code name is one whose blade prowess is recognized even by Rankandels. Undoubtedly, he is strong, judging by the energy, at least on the 8th rank. Jin was glad that he had covered his face with the rune of Molt. Quickhandle said that he was good. It was natural for a person. Once he asked for forgiveness if he offended her. They had no other option to verify the identity of her guests. Since they confirmed them, he was leaving. Once he didn't even ask who Jin and Muraken were. And if he had, Quickhandle wouldn't have told him. But could Quickhandle let him go so easily? He had so brazenly invaded her space and even dared to apologize for it. There must be a limit to human arrogance. Once he said that Anya had just left the house. Did Quickhandle think that walking alone late at night was dangerous for her? If they fight now, Quickhandle will win. But will she be able to help Anya if something happens to her in this short period of time? Once I asked if she still wanted to continue. If not, he will leave. Once he walked past Quickhandle and went out into the doorway. The silver dragon released a monstrous aura. It pressed on Raza like several mountains. Quickhandle told him to remember that next time he would have to put the most expensive on the line. Every little thing that he defended at the cost of his life. Let him be ready to lose everything because of the offense committed today. He said goodbye once and left. Raz, who had escaped from a remote log cabin, felt relieved, despite the fact that there was an unperturbed expression on his face. His demeanor was born out of a lot of rigorous training in controlling facial expressions and suppressing emotions, necessary in order to become the commander of a unit of the Department of Special Affairs of Bimen. Quickhandle probably showed him incredible strength, but he didn't really feel fear. After all, for a special affairs officer, death was only considered a minor inconvenience when it came to completing missions. Once I told the officer who was nearby that he confirmed the appearance of the smugglers. He told him to go back and find out. And also for a while, all surveillance of the Silver Dragon would be suspended. If they provoke the Silver Dragon even more, it will only get worse. Once he takes responsibility for it. He looked at his blood and thought, they were definitely up to something. He told the officer to stop close surveillance while the targets were active. Otherwise, they will all be in danger. Although he treated death like a common cold, it was different when it came to the livelihood of other soldiers. He didn't think he needed his minions to keep an eye on Quickhandle while she was in this state. Quickhandle threw a tantrum. Apart from being harassed by the Bement imperial family, she also felt that she had been duped. She felt like an idiot for leaving Anya in this ill-fated city. She could imagine the consequences if Jin hadn't come with Muraken. Jin replied that they were able to avoid it, so they'd better make looking after Anya their top priority. Quickhandle confidently said that they were moving out tomorrow. The next morning, Jin and Quickhandle watched the ship sail away from the cliff. It was a great relief that they came across a merchant ship bound for Tikken. Jin told Quickhandle not to worry. Jin has more than paid the captain, so he will not neglect Anya. Besides, Muraken accompanies her, so there was no need to worry. Quickhandle sighed. That's why she was worried. She left to contact Violetta. They will be able to meet him as soon as Muraken returns. A week later, Muraken looked longingly at the wooden house. Jin came up behind him. Muraken said that Quickhandle is more cruel than he expected. The two of them made this house when they were together in the past. Now he understood why she had left them here. Jin asked if his cold heart was melting from this. Muraken frowned. He told Jin not to say something so ridiculous. Resurgent old feelings are something that is hard to deal with. One left without leaving a grave, and the other one became an ex. When he remembered the good old days, bitterness filled his heart. It's just memories. 1,000 years ago, there were good old days in a house that looked like this, along with Temer and Quickhandle. No matter what they did, it was fun. At that moment, a strange thing happened. Temer's face from his memories was blocked by interference. Muraken winced in pain and swore. Seeing this, Quickhandle mocked Muraken. Is he tired of a short flight? Muraken shouted to her to be silent. No matter how weak he became, he couldn't run out of breath from something like this. Quickhandle reported that a reply had come from Violetta. It will be tomorrow night. The meeting place is an uninhabited island off the southern coast of Bement. Quickhandle was standing on the island and waiting for Violetta. Muraken and Jin hid behind rocks. Jin remembered the conversation before. What was she going to do tomorrow when she met Violetta? Quickhandle said she would tell him that the reason she called him here was to find out the location of Asmil's guardian dragon, Latri. If he pretends to be innocent, she will beat him. It was refreshing for Muraken. In her place, Jin would simply avoid such a tedious situation. Anya wasn't with her, so she could do whatever she wanted. Quickhandle interrupted Muraken. She told him not to do anything. She would fight alone. She didn't need him. Muraken was extremely displeased. No matter how weak he became, he didn't need compassion from his ex. Quickhandle told Muraken to stop talking nonsense. who said she was compassionate. It was related to Anya. Besides, the other side takes the dragon's honor seriously. This means that Violetta will come alone. Did Murakan really think she would lose? She told him not to worry and just relax. To be honest, Jean doubted Violetta's honesty. If the bastards really kidnapped Latry and planned to create a contract, then they will come fully armed. He assumed that Violetta would not come alone. Nothing would have happened if Violetta had come alone, because among all the active dragons, Quickhentel was one of the strongest. However, as Jin predicted, another person came, and it was the deputy head of Zippel, Andre. He laughed and bowed aristocratically. Standing in the middle of the island, Quickhentel glared at them. It seemed to her that Violetta had said he would come alone. Quickhentel expressed strong disappointment. Violetta said that when he received her letter, Andre was with him. Violetta said he was interested in the story of contractor Olta. Andre was just as excited, so he asked her for understanding. Violetta grinned rapaciously. Quickhentel said that Violetta had committed an utter stupidity. The wind dragon snorted. Since he made a strong impression, he decided to move on to the main topic. He had something to discuss about the Oltach contractor. Quickhentel asked where Ladder was. The wind dragon burst out laughing. God, he's a fool. Of course, that's what she's been thinking about all this time. Quickhentel screamed for him to answer the question. A year ago, he took Ladder. From that moment on, the contractor Asmilla cannot find his guardian dragon. Violetta did not answer immediately. He said he didn't know if that answer would satisfy her, but Ladder was fine. Quickhentel flew into a rage. How dare he make fun of her? Violetta didn't know what kind of relationship she had with the Asmill contractor, but it was a bad idea to focus on the Zippel family issues. Quickhentel said he was crazy to kidnap a young dragon who didn't understand the ways of this world. Jin and Murakan were hiding, watching the tense scene. They had already created this area with shadow energy, so their presence was hidden. Suddenly, whirlwinds appeared, surrounding the island. It was a cyclone caused by Violetta's ability. He had an offer for Quickhentel. If she handed over the contract, then in return he would let her live. Quickhentel chuckled. What kind of nonsense is this? Violetta was just an old lizard in her eyes. Violetta flew into a rage at these words. Mana flowed through the powerful winds, and tornadoes began to approach the silver dragon. Tornadoes moved like huge snakes, while the trees were lifting off the ground. However, it wasn't enough. She didn't even dodge the attack and took the wind in full force. It wasn't that Quickhentel underestimated the attack. She truly believed that it wasn't necessary. A loud echo echoed throughout the island as the cyclones touched her silver armor. But that was all. The neighborhood was devastated, as if from a bombing. And yet she was standing in the same place, in the same position. Violetta was a little surprised, slightly widening his eyes. Quickhentel had a counteroffer. Let him return Ladder right now, and she will let him go painlessly. Perhaps he will let go. Andre expressed his admiration in a trembling voice. Quickhentel didn't like his attitude. I didn't like it a bit. The 9-ranked great magician king of the wind, Andre Zippel, since this is a substitute. Everyone understood how strong he was, but few knew about his real strength. Just because everyone who fought with him died, people could only assume the fighting power. And as for Quickhentel, she didn't know much about Andre either. Andre laughed. For the first time in a long time, he could finally give it his all. Andre's staff began to glow. The release of mana is a sign indicating the beginning of an attack. The mana of a 9th-rank mage. Jin saw her for the first time after her rebirth. Andre Zippel. The Rankandels rejected him, but he is the deputy of the powerful Zippel family. Well, Jin wanted to see what level he was at. In an instant, about 500 meters around them, blue mana colored everything around. It was an unusual sight, and since he was a contract employee of the wind god, Andrew's magic was the pure essence of the wind. Every movement of the air around the island could potentially become Andrew's weapon. The wind was invisible, although its artificial compression and movement could be seen when it tore apart space. The wind in its purest form had no shape, so Andre's wind could become an invisible sword or a shapeless spear and pierce the enemy. The space around the great magician began to transform with the flow of wind. No one knew what would come out of the curved space. Andre grinned and held out his finger to the Quickhentel. The wind flew out of Andre's finger in the form of a thorn. Quickhentel felt the danger and spread her wings. She planned to fly while dodging the attack and use her breath to counter it. But no matter how much she flapped her giant wings, there was no wind. In fact, her wings seemed heavier, as if she was floating in water. There was nothing inside the released mana that could fly without Andre's permission. And losing the ability to fly was a big loss for the dragon. Violetta and Andre flew into the sky. Violetta's breath was flying in many directions. Andre used another spell. This time it wasn't a spell inherited from Melior. It was replaced by a lightning-related Zippel spell, Thunderstorm. The blue chains crackled and gathered in Andre's palm as his feet began to lift off the ground. The fact that he was a Meleor contractor didn't mean that he was limited to wind-related spells. Even Jin freely cast spells of several attributes using shadow energy. Jin exchanged glances with Morakan, but the black dragon shook his head. Rankandel has indeed become complacent, but these empty-headed idiots are also too confident. This will ruin them. When Morakan finished speaking, Andre also finished casting the spell. Violent, electric circuits rushed to the Rankandel, hundreds of sparks and crackles of electricity sufficient to blind a person mixed with Violetta's breath. Although they were quite far away, Jin felt the blows all over his body, despite the fact that he was protecting himself with shadow energy, a force definitely worthy of being the deputy head of the Zippel family. However, despite the undeniable power, the spell did not hit the target and became useless. Rankandel activated her powers and froze Andre's spell. As the great wizard controlled the wind, being a contract of Meleor, Rankandel ruled time as one of the dragons of Ulta. Rankandel destroyed the frozen magic with one breath. That's why time management was one of the most powerful abilities. The ability to control time and even stop magic. It's been many years since Andre has seen such a sight. Strangely enough, greed flashed in his eyes. Rankandel said that today she would tear apart his dirty mouth. Andre froze, and then went berserk. She was terribly angry after just one spell. He ordered Violetta to proceed with the next attack. Violetta could not carry out this order. His body didn't move. It was the power of time control. Rankandel got off the ground and rushed at the frozen wind dragon and knocked him to the ground. When she got close enough, she tore off one of his arms. Screeching, he fell to the ground with Rankandel. Andre watched helplessly on the sidelines. He could only scream. How did this nobody dare to buzz in front of her? Rankandel was still there.